common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And joining us now, as we just said, Gregg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst. He's also the author of the Constitution of the United States and other patriotic documents. Wrote a big column today, Greg, about the Supreme Court and President Biden and Kamala Harris taking on the U.S. Supreme Court. What is your reaction to this?
Well, it's mostly unconstitutional. Congress cannot, as Biden wants, pass a law imposing term limits on the Supreme Court justices. Why? Because life terms are embedded in the Constitution for justices. Only a constitutional amendment can do that, and that's never going to happen because the bar is so high. 2/3 of vote of both houses of Congress or 2/3 of the states, and once you get past that, ratification requires 3/4 of the states. So that's an impossibility. Biden does want to amend the Constitution to override the immunity decision, but that, too, is politically impossible. And then he wants to enforce this ethical code. That's a blatant violation of the separation of power. So all of this has zero chance of happening, but it underscores that Biden will say and do anything to get votes, and that's what this is all about. It's political pablum for Democrats to gin up and troll for votes.
Greg, that's what President Biden has been doing. He's been shooting the crap.
Yeah.
That, we're going to do this for you. We're going to give you 2 turkeys in every pot. We're going to give you 2 new cars. I mean, they've been doing it all along, and a large percentage of the people believe him. And that's what they're betting on, that a large percentage of the people believe him. A large percentage of the kids that are going to college, that he's going to forgive my loan.
Yeah,
believe him, and the Supreme Court said no way.
Yeah, and then he did it all over again in a different way, and he's once again getting slapped down in the courts. It's pretty glaring vote buying. You might as well hand out cash next to the ballot boxes. I mean, that's what he's really doing with many of these mandates, and of course, he always gets spanked by the U.S. Supreme Court, whether it's the vaccine mandate or, his racist farm program or the student loan or the eviction moratorium. He knows he can't do these things.
He's lying. He's lying to the American people.
Short-term gain.
Yes.
He doesn't care.
Right. He doesn't care. It's an election.
But you know what the problem is? The problem is that the people hear him say, I'm going to forgive your loans. I'm going to do all these things. And then when the Supreme Court spanks him, nobody hears that. That's not for public consumption. So people just hear what he tells them.
Right. And, a lot of students, ironically enough, pay no attention to what's happening in the world. They live in their own little bubble. And so they hear, student loan forgiveness. That's great. And they don't, follow up and read, that's been tossed out. Sorry, your loan doesn't get forgiven.
Right. They hear free. Judge Weinberg.
Good to talk to you again, Greg. Greg, you know about this decision out of U.S. District Court in the Eastern District of New York that said that Customs can't protect the border because it's now subject to the Fourth Amendment search and seizure mandate? Right. An illegal migrant search and seizure protection? What did I miss in law school?
Can migrants have, how do they have these rights? How do the migrants have these rights?
Greg, I'll go back to law school with you if necessary.
Yeah, well, first, it is a crime to enter the United States illegally. 8 U.S.C. 1325. 2 years behind bars is punishment. Biden doesn't want to enforce that. But for a century, Judge, you're right. The Supreme Court, as you know, has upheld a border search exception to the Fourth Amendment warrant requirement, which allows warrantless searches. What's interesting is the High Court has never directly considered smartphones, laptops, and other electronic devices. Some appellate courts have ruled you can seize, but you can't search the phone without a warrant. Other courts have ruled otherwise. So I think this is a case that may eventually have to be resolved by the United States Supreme Court. But in the meantime, it's the position of the Border Patrol and Customs. They can seize cell phones from people entering the U.S. illegal, and they can search phones without a warrant. It's on their website, but frankly, we're only talking about less than 1% of encounters.
But Greg, we're talking about a national security issue, the ability to search these cell phones. And my favorite Supreme Court Justice, Robert Jackson, said the United States Constitution is not a suicide pact. And that's what this decision leads us to. If they can't search the phones, how do you know if you are interceding in a terrorist attack?
And that's exactly why there's been this long-standing exception to the Fourth Amendment at borders, because you're talking about here combating terrorist activity, child pornography, drug smuggling, human trafficking, cash smuggling, all kinds of criminal activity that is flowing across the border by the thousands each and every day. So it's important that CBP be given unfettered authority to do as they see fit to protect a national security.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, it's stunning that to be able to block that, that's a huge tool, as you know, to protect our homeland. And that is the key. Gregg Jarrett, thank you so much. We love having you on, Greg.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.